Hey, it's Dan here. If you haven't heard, the Fun Kids Science Weekly is back and bigger than ever. We hear all about the biggest stories in the world of science.
And so they realize, oh my gosh, I think what we're seeing is a newborn great white.
Find out which science is the best.
Wow, I thought that just sounded like such a cool career that I could get out there, visit different places in those different environments.
Put your questions to the experts.
How does a mobile phone contact another mobile phone without a wire?
Remember to send in your questions on the free Fun Kids app or at funkidslive.com. That's the bigger and better Fun Kids Science Weekly every Saturday from wherever you get your podcasts.
We were driving back from some place called Ulladulla, and we were looking for whales.
And what was it like to see them?
They were big. They looked like water coming out of a fountain. And then my brother farted. And then I wondered if whales fart or sneeze. Hello, I'm Guy. I'm 10 and I'm from Sydney, Australia.
And I'm Eloise. You're listening to The Conversation's Curious Kids. Each week, we'll be getting a very clever expert to answer your biggest questions.
How high could you jump on the moon? Why is my dog so cute?
For those of you who don't know, The Conversation is a news website written by some of the world's best experts, and we love getting them to answer questions from kids. So, all you curious kids out there, if you have a burning question, please write to us at curiouskids@theconversation.com and we will do our very best to answer it. Guy's question turned out to be so big and interesting that we decided to make 2 episodes. Welcome to part 1.
Do whales sneeze?
I'm no whale expert, so we called up someone who I thought might know the answer.
Hello.
Hi Vanessa, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good.
Hello, Guy. How you going?
Good.
That's good. My name is Dr. Vanessa Pirotta and I am a wildlife scientist, but I work particularly with really, really big animals known as whales.
So first off, do whales sneeze?
Good question. Now, I had a lot of thought about this because whales are mammals like us. They breathe air and we sneeze, but the way in which they're built are a little bit different to how we are. A whale, they can't breathe through their mouth at all.
They can only breathe through their noses. But unlike us, their noses are not on the front of their faces. So come, let's jump into the sea and get a better look at how whales breathe. Are you ready? Are you holding your nose? Let's go!
They have 2 nostrils which are located on top of their head, like an inbuilt snorkel, which means that they can be looking down around in the environment below them and they can still breathe at the same time. But at some stage during the day, they'll need to come up to take a breath of fresh air. And when they come up to take a breath, sometimes there's some water on top of their nose. So as they exhale and then intake the air, the fresh oxygen, they're actually pushing out some of the water that's on top of their nostrils.
And that's the big fountains you can see whales making out at sea.
So, in short, my answer to this question is no, they can't technically sneeze. But if there is something in their nose, or at least on top, they are able to clear that to some degree.
Nice.
Which whale can hold their breath for the longest?
Ooh, this is a whale that I really like. It's called the Cuvier's beaked whale. And this whale can hold its breath, I believe, for over 3 hours and 42 minutes.
Whoa, that's such a long time. So what happens at night? When the whales are sleeping? How do they breathe?
Yes, so sleeping is definitely adapted differently to a whale world. So some whales will sleep by resting part of their brain and keeping vigilant. And the difference between us and whales is that they have to actively think about breathing. So we're automatic breathers right now, whereas we're talking, not even thinking about breathing. We just do it. But a whale, they'll really need to think about actively coming up. So some will rest part of their brain and the other part will remain vigilant for predators, but also to keep breathing. And some whales will take a breath and then go to the bottom of the ocean and rest for about 20 minutes or so and just hang either diagonally or vertically and just rest for chunks of 20 to 30 minutes and then go, oh, I need to breathe and come back up.
Very cool. Can you imagine having to do that, Guy?
Be too hard.
There's no blankets in the whale world. They don't get cozy and like we do. So it's very much a snack sleep.
Doesn't sound too bad. Go for it, Guy. What's your next question?
If a whale were to sneeze, how big would it be?
It would be really big. A humpback whale, for example, has a lung capacity of over 1,000 litres. So me as an adult, my lung capacity is around 6 litres, and maybe you, Guy, might be about half of that because you're not as big as me. So if a whale was to sneeze, I would imagine that would be one big snot.
Why do whales have snot but don't sneeze?
Well, we use the term whale snot, but really what we are collecting is whale lung bacteria. So some whales, if they're not very well, will actually have a lot of buildup of mucus around their nose, which is not good and not ideal. And fortunately, I've not had to sample from a whale that has that. Typically, we see that if animals have come onto the land and they're beached or stranded and they're not very healthy at all. But it's not really that boogery, typical snot.
But whale snot, or lung bacteria, is Vanessa's favourite thing to study. Who knew you could learn so much from it?
You can collect a whole heap of information from their lung bacteria and from their whale snot. And the types of bacteria we were looking for specifically can provide us with information as to what type of bacteria is found in healthy whales. And then also, if there is a sick whale, we can then compare what a healthy lung bacteria looks like versus an unhealthy whale.
Nice. So they can keep whales alive and healthy for longer.
That's right.
But Vanessa doesn't go around blowing whales' nostrils to get their snot. She and her team have come up with a very clever way to collect it. And the whales don't even know they're there.
How do you do that?
Great question. So I work with a team of scientists and we've been able to develop some really cool technology to access whales in really exciting ways. And one of these ways is by using drones with a petri dish, which is a circle little dish, which is plastic. It has a lid and this is able to open and close. And we can place those on a drone and fly a drone out to a whale's position. We essentially go out onto a boat, we go out to the sea, we look for whales, we see a whale breathing, and then as the whale takes a breath, the drone is flown through the snot with the petri dish open and will deliberately collect as much snot as possible on the petri dish.
That was unbelievable. It was the big blow and then the scoop through.
That was textbook sample. Now we just got to land the drone safely. Well done.
Here's Vanessa out on her boat, talking to Dr. Chris Brown on his programme The Living Room on Australia's Channel 10. Can you imagine how exciting it is to get such an epic snot, Guy?
It would be big.
It would be. It's kind of like getting a COVID swab. It's the way I describe it now, except the whales don't really know that we're there with the drone. They either knew we were there and did nothing, or they had absolutely no idea that we're using the drones to collect their snot, which is pretty good because sometimes whales might become stressed when there's research going on.
Okay. What's your favourite part about doing it?
seeing the whales is my favourite part. And they can jump whenever you least expect it. They can come up to the boat to say hello. They sometimes look at you in the eye. They're incredible creatures.
Oh, wow. So do you get quite emotional watching these whales?
I can get very emotional. In fact, the first time we ever collected whale snot, I cried. It was off Bondi Beach, and it actually happened. We caught whale snot. It was incredible, and it was many years in the making. So it was very exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Can you imagine that guy being on a boat and watching these whales on a beautiful sunny day, and they come up and circle your boat? These animals which are just enormous, and they're coming up to play and say hi and just interact with you like that.
That would be fun.
Yeah? Would you like to do that?
Yeah.
Well, maybe you could be a marine biologist when you're older and do Vanessa's job.
Well, you might be doing other things that I would have not even thought about because technology is so different in the near future, which is very exciting. Just keep on asking questions and learning. And as you can see, me as a scientist, there's so many things I need to know, and I can continue to keep learning. So curiosity is the best, and Curious Kids is such a great outlet for that. So thank you, Guy, for your question. I've learnt a lot, and hopefully you've learnt a lot as well.
Thank you so much for answering all my questions.
You are very welcome, and thank you to your mum for helping you, which is great.
Thank you. That's all from me and Guy for today. Thanks so much for listening to the Conversations Curious Kids. If you love learning about whales and want to know more about them, please look out for part 2.
Do whales fart and why?
Coming later in this series. In the meantime, we look forward to seeing you next week when we ask,
how high could you jump from the moon?
Remember, if you're a kid with a burning question about the world, email us at curiouskids@theconversation.com or record it directly at funkidslive.com/curious, and we'll try to find an expert to answer it. Get your grown-up to click on the link in our show notes to read more great answers to kids' questions on The Conversation. With thanks to Guy from Sydney, Dr. Vanessa Pirotta, Gemma Ware, the executive producer of the show, and Adam Stoner, our partner at Fun Kids. It was produced, presented, and sound designed by me, Eloise Stevens. See you next week!
Hey, it's Dan here. If you haven't heard, the Fun Kids Science Weekly is back and bigger than ever. We hear all about the biggest stories in the world of science.
And so they realize, oh my gosh, I think what we're seeing is a newborn great white.
Find out which science is the best.
Wow, I thought that just sounded like such a cool career that I could get out there, visit different places in those different environments.
Put your questions to the experts.
How does a mobile phone contact another mobile phone without a wire?
Remember to send in your questions on the free Fun Kids app or at funkidslive.com. That's the bigger and better Fun Kids Science Weekly every Saturday from wherever you get your podcasts.